Today on Locked On Canadians, lots of insiders are saying lots of things, some of them conflicting. We try to read the tea leaves and figure out what the Habs are going to do next.
You are Locked On Canadians, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi there, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Canadians. We want to thank you all for making us your first listen of the day and for making us the number one sports podcast network. We're so grateful to you all. As you know, we're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network. My name is Laura Saba, also known as The Active Stick, and I'm joined, as always, by my wonderful co-host, Ian Boisvert, who could barely contain his excitement about getting to see his first game at the Bell Center this weekend. Ian, 2 more sleeps left at the time that we're recording this? A couple.
I'm trying not to count because it's making the days go by very long. It's taking forever to get through any of this stuff. Just thinking about, hot dogs at the Bell Center, hanging out with my friends, maybe meeting Yuppie. We'll see how the day goes. It's really it's a long time coming. It's been a while. I'm sure I'll be quite emotional at the time, but I kind of at this point am not still fully understanding that I'm going to see a game there. So we'll see how it goes.
It's going to be really fun. We're very excited. But before we get there, there's a Washington Capitals game that we're going to preview later in this episode. We're also going to look at some options the Canadians may want to inquire about. But right now, we really need to get into what all the insiders are saying because there's a lot of conflicting information out there. And we're going to try and make some educated guesses as to what's really going on with the Montreal Canadiens. So a couple of days ago at this point, I think we're talking Tuesday, Renaud Lavoie said that the Montreal Canadiens are going to be making moves imminently or something like that. It was like, Kent Hughes is going to do something soon, right? That soon didn't happen. Later on, Darren Dreger said that the census the Montreal Canadiens had asked around and everything was too expensive. So they decided that they're going to focus on the problem and try to solve it internally. And then, we're hearing bits and pieces there. I know that Dave Pagnotta reported that the Oilers are interested in Samuel Montembeault. So that might be an avenue for the Habs. So I think we should kind of talk about this because the Montreal Canadiens obviously need help.
Yeah. And I think I have the appetite for a move right now, for something to come in and help this forward core deal with the injuries that have happened. They have effectively removed Dach, Suzuki, not Suzuki, knock on wood, not Suzuki, Dach, Laine, Newhook, and have not replaced any of them adequately. The team has suffered as a result. I think that's part of the reason why they've had a hard time as of late scoring goals, is this was finally too much. It was just, it's been a lot there. Against Columbus, I thought that they crawled their way back into playing a very simple style of hockey and being able to capitalize on that. However, I don't think that they need to take a big swing to make this work. I think we'll talk about that more in our now. Correct. Yeah. No, that I'm talking in the immediate sense to help them get through the day-to-day grind of the NHL season. They don't need to go and swing for a Tage Thompson, right? Like that's a pipe dream summer trade that you do and it sets you up for a season. It's not a, hey, we're a little banged up, let's go acquire a number one center. Nobody does that. It's not possible to do right now. So I think what Dreger said made sense. I think that's Kent Hughes' MO. He's going to get the best deal possible. Right now he doesn't see it, and his refrain is effectively, we have food at home. Like that's what he is told. I think that's the message they're trying to get out, is we're going to see what we have here first and then decide later when maybe more teams have decided they're selling, the market gets saturated and the prices come down.
Which is not wrong at all. So I do also want to address the Renaud thing because Renaud Lavoie is very, very dialed in. And personally, for me, I wonder if he thought maybe that the Canadiens were going to find something at the price that they wanted, or that he thought that they had put in waiver claims that he expected the Habs to be able to, I guess, win. Is that what you do?
Yeah. I think it's possible. To me, it's not surprising that message was sent out the same day that we were waiting on the John Beecher sweepstakes, which wasn't much of a sweepstakes. We'll never know who else put a claim in on him because he went to the worst team in the league in Calgary, which, is their prerogative. I don't know why they'd be trying to get better right now. They should be trying to do everything in their power to be the home of Gavin McKenna, but that's their prerogative. They can choose what they want to do. But it also goes to show you that that player was valuable, and it's not often that a player like that makes it onto waivers. So I wouldn't have surprised me to see if Montreal had something out there. When he went on waivers, Elliot Friedman said it wouldn't surprise me if Montreal was interested. I think the word is out there,
Yeah,
in circles, that the Canadiens are have an appetite to do something of that variety. Again, that's not blowing the whole thing up and eliminating what's made them good so far this season. I think they need to insulate the parts that have been good. I mean, you look at it on defense, they still have Hudson, they still have Matheson, they still have Dobson. Those guys are all contributing big time. They still have their entire first line. They still have Demidov. Like, this isn't a lost cause, and it should not. This slump that they're in should not continue on forever. But they may need a little bit of a boost to get out of it. I think insulating them with depth players to push those actual depth players who have moved up the lineup back down the lineup into their spots. And then, if the thing about making a move now for one of those pieces is that you avoid the trade deadline shuffle later on. And when Laine is back, and when Dach is back, and when Newhook is back, you now also have another depth piece on your fourth line, and you have options going into the playoffs, should the Canadiens be fortunate enough to make it.
Yeah. And you know what I think is kind of ironic is that, yes, I know that Marty has, he doesn't call things his first, second, or third line, but in theory, you have 3 top 6 capable players. I'm not going to say caliber. I'm going to say top 6 capable players. Those 3 top 6 capable players are not in the lineup. And we're here saying the solution is actually in the bottom 6, which I think is really funny. But I think it's also true. I think that one of the things that the Montreal Canadiens were able to do last year actually was that their bottom 6 really boosted them in many, many ways, right? Like, we think about how much better they were with Emil Heineman in the lineup. We talk about that identity line that they had and how much it provided for the Montreal Canadiens. We talk about, Jake Evans' career year and stuff like that. So the fact that the bottom 6 got weaker to begin with, I think put a lot more pressure on the top 6 caliber players. And I also kind of think that the Montreal Canadiens maybe expected a little bit more from Zach Bolduc, right?
Yeah.
And again, it's not to say that he's a hopeless case or anything like that. He's not playing great right now, but this is, like I said, 115 games, 116 games in the NHL, his NHL career. He's going to have to figure it out. Very young player. He's going to have to figure it out. But I figure him to be part of the bottom 6, not the top 6.
Yeah. And I think, and I mentioned this when I talked about the fourth line in the past, the goal of that fourth line, whatever it is, whatever energy identity line you're throwing out there, I won't even attach a number to it. You know what line it is by who's on it, not by their deployment. You know who I'm talking about. Their goal is they're going to start a lot of shifts in their defensive zone. Their goal is to make the shift end in the offensive zone, right? Get the puck down there, work it down deep, get a puck to the net, make the goalie cover it, make them do something that causes the play to stop, get the big boys over the line, get the top line back out there. That's their goal. And I think to a certain extent that, the Andersons and Evans of the world have done a decent job of that, of starting their shifts in an inopportune spot and creating a situation for the offensive talent to get to work. You don't want to start Ivan Demidov in the defensive zone all that much. You want to be able to roll him out there so that, he's hitting the ground running. He can just pick up the puck in the offensive zone and do the things that he knows how to do. And I think if you continue to add to that bottom 6, that's how you're going to get him in those more opportune situations, is by, not forcing him to be the one on the ice, taking a defensive zone draw because you need Kapanen on the ice, right? Yeah. Or if you have Bolduc in the top 6 because you need Bolduc in the top 6. Like, I think a lot of their problems are solved by mitigating the issues lower down the lineup. Obviously, yes, the top line has gone cold. We know this. That will work itself out. talent always prevails in the end. I'm not worried about that.
Particularly with that line, they always prevail.
Yeah, they'll figure it out, man. I'm not worried about it. They need to start shooting the puck more. I think Cole Caulfield has become very gun shy lately, and I don't really understand why.
He's shooting at like 30%.
Yeah, and I mean, when he does shoot it now, he doesn't shoot it off the right now. And when he does, it misses the net. Like it's just it's completely between the ears.
Yeah. And I think that's the case with a lot of these guys, right? Like lots of Montembeault as well. I know we didn't talk about goaltending really in this segment. Okay, so speaking of that, should the Canadiens find themselves in a position to make a move to shore up that bottom six, who should they be inquiring about? We're going to be talking about that up next. Let's be real. Making excuses doesn't solve anything. We've all heard them before. It's just stress, I'm tired, or it happens to everyone sometimes. But when it comes to performance, sometimes your body just needs a little extra support. And that's where Rugiet comes in. Rugiet.com offers fast-acting, doctor-prescribed treatments for ED designed to help you stop making excuses and start making moves. Rugiet makes it easy to get started. You just connect with a board-certified doctor 100% online. No awkward waiting rooms, no in-person appointments. If prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly straight to your door. The process is fast, simple, and private, and it's all handled by real doctors. It's all about confidence, connection, and getting back to the moments that matter. Visit rugiet.com/lockedonnhl to get 15% off your first order. That's rugiet.com/lockedonnhl. And don't forget to use our code LOCKEDONNHL so they know we sent you. Rugiet. Stop making excuses and start making moves. I want to thank everyone once again for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. I also want to remind everybody that tomorrow is our mailbag episode. Yes, we will be recapping the game against the Washington Capitals, but Friday is our mailbag day. So please send us your mailbag questions. LockedOnCanadiens@gmail.com is the best way to do it. Leave them in the YouTube comments, and our socials are Locked On Canadiens, Blue Sky, Instagram, and TikTok. All right, let's get back to the moment at hand. We have been talking, obviously, not just on the podcast, but in our group chats, just with our friends, we're talking about what the Canadiens should do. Which teams should they talk to? What players should they target? And Ian, earlier today, you presented a very intriguing prospect.
Yeah, so the concept of this comes from David Pagnotta, who said that Nashville is getting to the point where they are open for business and will listen on almost anybody. Says teams are inquiring on Philip Forsberg's future. Also names Ryan O'Reilly, Michael Civil War era Bunting, and Erik Haula as potential players with interest. I know I mentioned Ryan O'Reilly on here in the past. Left shot, veteran center, defensively stable, can still chip in offensively, I think. Wins a ton of faceoffs. He's going to cost you a fortune, though, because he is a well-respected veteran. He's under contract next year as well, so you'd be getting 2 years. There's just a prestige price tag that gets attached to a player like that. The other guy on this list that I think Montreal should be interested in that might not have that much of a price tag associated with him is Erik Haula. He's making just over $3 million for this last season, and then he's a UFA. He does have a partial no trade clause, so he would have to agree to go to wherever he's being traded to. But I will say he's listed as a winger, but the numbers bear that out to not be true. Because if you go on the daily faceoff line combos, they'll show you exactly what their lines look like. Erik Haula is being lined up as a center. He's taken a little over 200 draws so far this season, and he has a 52% win rate at the faceoff dot. Also left-handed. He's listed at 5'11", so that could go either way. He could actually be closer to 6 feet, or maybe he bumped that number up a little bit. He is quite physical. I think he's got like the 5th most hits on the Nashville Predators, so the size hasn't really bothered him all that much. You'll note for me, like his name always pops up in the playoffs. He always seems to be a guy that chips in offensively, big goals in the playoffs. I just think, if Kent Hughes is attacking this through the lens of we have food at home because everything else is too expensive, this might be an option that doesn't cost as much as a Ryan O'Reilly or a Nazem Kadri, which I know that name keeps being thrown around. The problem is right now for me, and I'm sure that others think this as well, there's no sellers right now. It's just Nashville. Even Calgary hasn't said we're selling everything, right? They're still living in denial. I think the St. Louis Blues will get there eventually, unless they don't, because they're switching their GM at the end of the year. It's no longer going to be Doug Armstrong. It's going to be Alex Steen, because we are now ancient, and Alex Steen is going to be a general manager. Really sad to think about that. But they don't want to leave. He probably doesn't want to leave Alex Steen with a nightmare. He probably wants to leave him with a stable team. So I don't know what other options are going to become available, and Kent Hughes is going to have to get creative. I think Erik Haula is a pretty decent option.
I think it also kind of depends on the deadline he's given himself, right? We talked a little bit earlier today about how he waited until December to trade for Alex Carrier. But speaking of that, if Nashville is open for business, do you think they pick up the phone if Kent Hughes calls?
He definitely has Kent Hughes saved. Barry Trotz, has Kent Hughes saved in his phone as like do not answer. Like there's no like there's no like I don't know necessarily, because Kent Hughes kept going back to Colorado, right? He made the Lehkonen trade, didn't do all that well in that trade, and then went back and made the Alex Newhook trade. Like maybe general managers don't really think about that all that much. Although if Nashville gets fleeced a second time by Kent Hughes, I think their fans are going to lose their minds. I think they all really miss Alex Carrier, and they found that trade to be entirely unnecessary. I wonder like what Nashville really truly thinks they're going to be, because they don't have a lot under contract for next year anyway. So I think if they were going to tear it down, this would be the year to kind of do that. You're not dealing Steven Stamkos. You're not dealing Jonathan Marchessault. Maybe you're dealing Philip Forsberg because he's still an effective player, but he's got an $8.5 million cap hit until 2030 and a full no move clause. So he has all of the leverage in that conversation. I'm just trying to look. They already have 2 retained salary transactions, so they can only do one more. Do they want to do that for Erik Haula? Because I don't know if Montreal would want to take on that full 3 plus. Maybe they would. I'm doubtful of that. That would be the one sticking point of this for me, is I don't think that the cap hit makes a ton of sense. The player does, the role does, the price to acquire probably be like a 3rd round pick, maybe a 2nd round pick, and the Canadiens have 2 of them in this year's draft, so they're probably not dying to hold on to one of those.
I do feel that that's a lot for somebody who's basically a rental, right?
For sure. And the problem, though, is that those prices are only going to increase as you get to the trade deadline. You also have to take into account that retained salary transactions, you have to, I don't remember the exact number of days that you have to hold on to him now, but you cannot, there are no more, the Canadiens retaining Nick Bonino and then trading him immediately. Like that's not happening anymore. You have to hold him for a few, I think it's like 2 months. Which will essentially create a new trade deadline, where if you want to do that, you have to trade for a guy well in advance and then make that trade later on. They've effectively killed that aspect of trading because the NHL hates fun.
I hate that they remove the fun things like that. You can't circumvent the cap. I just thought it was like really fun to see, GMs get creative on how to do that. And now, this is something that they can't exploit either. Like essentially, I know we call it, like in jest, we call it money laundering. But it is kind of, you're kind of, I don't know if it's money laundering, but you're cleaning the money by doing that.
that is what money laundering is. So I think that's just, just a reminder, this show is not legal advice. Go talk to a lawyer or whatever if you want to get advice on how to not launder money.
Don't do it.
Our advice would be don't do it. But again, not an advice show. We don't do that here.
All right. Is there anything else before we wrap up this segment? Is there anyone else, that you think the Canadiens should be looking at?
I think eventually we're just going to get Owen Beck. Owen Beck's going to come back up. Maybe we get Florian Jacki for a few games. I really just think that they're realistic about what this team's chances are. And they want to save the ammunition they have for something that makes a long-term impact. Right? Yeah. Like even trading for Alex Carrier, they got him for a few years, right? They had him last year. They'll have him this year. They'll have him next year. And then maybe they'll extend him.
Yeah. I love Alex Carrier, by the way.
I know. I hope they don't move on from him. I really enjoy that player. He's a phenomenal hockey player. I don't know what Nashville was thinking, which is kind of why I think you could get Erik Haula on the cheap. Because I just don't. Maybe you can get Ryan O'Reilly on the cheap. I genuinely don't think that they know what they're doing.
Definitely not, seeing how all their moves have worked out for them so far. Although I do hear that Justin Barron is a more consistent NHL player in Nashville than he was in Montreal. So we wish him all the best. In the meantime, there is a game coming up, and it is a little bit of a statement game. So we did want to spend a little bit of time previewing, and we're going to get to that in just a moment here on Locked On Canadiens. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So I'm going to say that again. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, this is the first time the Montreal Canadiens play the Washington Capitals since the Caps eliminated them in the playoffs at the end of last season. We looked at that Caps series as playoff school. At the same time, there were many games where we thought the Canadiens did have a shot and they could have pulled off the upset, the quote-unquote upset. The reason why was because the Washington Capitals had kind of overachieved based on their potential, and the evidence of that is that right now they're struggling.
Yeah, they are struggling. I think they're struggling in the results aspect and not so much their process. At least 5-on-5, they're one of the better teams in the league. Money Puck has them at a 55.59 expected goals percentage. That's good for third in the National Hockey League behind Carolina and Colorado. So good company for them to be in. The problem with them is their special teams. Their power play is awful. It is I believe the third worst in the National Hockey League, rocking a 14% on the power play in 2025 is abysmal, especially when you have the cheat code in Alexander Ovechkin just waiting to hammer the puck on the one-timer. I don't know how they haven't made that work. I know they've been dealing with injuries. Come on, you have the power play weapon on your team. That should be better. Their penalty kill is also seventh worst in the National Hockey League. So if you're the Montreal Canadiens and you're hoping that this will be a get-right game for your power play, you have it. It's laid out in front of you. You have to be able to capitalize on that.
But you need a power play to begin with.
Yeah, I find the chances of them going 2 straight games without a power play fairly unlikely. I do, you mentioned this in our weekly forecast at the beginning of the week, that you think that this game has the chance to be I don't know if you said shenanigans game, but that's what I'll editorialize here and say it could very much get to a point where it gets out of hand.
Mm-hmm.
Who's at the center of that? If it does get out of hand and we go, this game's over, it's Tom Wilson for the Caps. It takes 2 to tango. Who is it for Montreal? Because there's 2 guys it could be for me.
It could be Josh Anderson or it could be Arber Xhekaj.
Yeah, and I think I loved Josh
Plot
Anderson's
twist, it's Cole Caulfield.
yeah, right. The goon Cole Caulfield. He
Sorry,
just starts hacking at guys' ankles. I loved Josh Anderson's game against Boston because he was effective and he was annoying and he didn't do anything that made you go, come on, man. Yeah. Like, you can't do that. He drew Mark Kastelik into fighting him for no reason. Josh Anderson went to go lay a hit, missed the hit himself into the wall, and Mark Kastelik said, I have to defend the wall's honor. Like, I didn't understand what happened. If Josh Anderson is playing that way and he's causing the Caps to kind of lose their minds, great. Because if the Caps are losing their minds over a third liner, I think we're in great shape. We're laughing the entire way through the rest of this game.
You know who I think will have a good game?
Who's that?
I think Juraj Slafkovsky is going
He
to
was
relish playing Washington.
he was so good in that Columbus game, and I think it was a warm up for this game against Washington, because the Jackets were rough in that game. They popped Slafkovsky a few times, and he got right back up and tried to make a play. Like, it didn't phase him at all. He's going to get hit. He's big. Guys want to take runs at him. I get it. I loved the way that he composed himself and that he drove his own line. Something that I think a lot of Canadiens fans held against him was the fact that he played on a great line. It's, well, he's not doing any of this on his own. Well, joke's on you. He can do this on his own.
Yeah.
I'd like to see more of it, honestly. Just because, you get to the playoffs and you don't know what sort of things you'll have to do to win games. It's a good test at this point in the season to keep trying that, right? Keep working that muscle for Juraj Slafkovsky and see if he can continue to deliver in those situations. We know Sam Montembeault is getting the start on Thursday. And I wonder if Sam feels there's some unfinished business to attend to in this game. I'm really hoping that he looks at this as an opportunity for him to fully right the ship on his season so far and pick up where he was. He looked great in the series against Washington before he got hurt, right? Like, he was really good in that series.
Yes.
So I'm hoping that this is also an opportunity for him to bounce back.
I think so. I honestly, I feel like if that's something that he's focused on, then he's not too in his own head about his inability to stop pucks. So, kind of fooling himself into playing well, if I may. We don't currently have the benefit of warning skate lines, and also because everybody's so banged up, it's hard to kind of predict what they're going to do. But where do you think Marty puts Zach Bolduc in this game?
Well, I imagine he stays on that top power play unit. I think the goal there is to put one player on that power play whose job it is to rip the puck.
Yeah.
And to get in front of the net, right? It's a big guy. He can stand in front of, we imagine it's going to be Charlie Lindgren, because the Capitals are currently playing, as we're recording this, on Wednesday night at home against the Oilers, and Logan Thompson's playing in that one. So they will go to Montreal afterwards. And you imagine we're getting the backup on Thursday. So that the Canadiens have in their favor. They're playing a tired team with 2 days of rest. It should be a game the Canadiens are able to win. I do think that Bolduc probably goes back. I wonder if he goes back to that first line. I kind of don't want to see it again. No. I think I've seen enough, at least at this point, in
not
the
to
Zach
be a
Bolduc
jerk, but
experience.
I don't want to see it.
I don't want to see it either, man. I think I want to see him dominate as a third or fourth line player right now.
Yeah.
Because the thing about Zach Bolduc is that he is an incredibly talented player, but at the core, that's what his skill set is. It's crash and bang and go to the net and make havoc. And he tries to skill it up sometimes. And I don't want him to do that. I think of the Paul Maurice clip that's gone viral a few times of him talking about you guys are trying to be out here making plays. Screw the plays. Pound the D. Get in deep. No more plays. We're not making plays. Get in deep and hit them.
Yes.
I think Zach Bolduc needs to take that to heart. Yeah. I don't want to see you making plays, dude. I want to see you going into the end boards with another guy. I want to see you force the puck out on the forecheck. Create space for your line mates by doing that. And then you might benefit from finding yourself in a scoring position. I find he's trying to be a first liner instead of just being Zachary Bolduc. Just be that guy. That's the guy the Canadiens got.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think another thing that I would like is for Brendan Gallagher to stop trying to do too much and just do what he's good at.
And score a goal.
Yeah, he could score a goal.
He still hasn't scored this year.
Yeah. So, the formula is the same. Make life difficult for the goalie. Lots of shots, lots of butts in his face.
Yeah. Charlie Lindgren, you will know how to spell Slafkovsky flawlessly by the end of the night, because I hope you have stared at his nameplate from first period to the final buzzer. That's how these guys are going to be successful right now.
Yeah.
Is by the goalie should be able to know which threads are missing from the backs of their jerseys. It should not be complicated. Don't overcomplicate this.
Yes. All right. It is Thursday, so I do want to remind everyone that the mailbag is tomorrow. Once again, you can send them to us at Gmail, lockedoncanadians@gmail.com. Locked On Canadians on TikTok, Instagram, and Blue Sky. It is Thursday. We promised you our trivia would be back. Is it back, Ian?
It is not, and I failed everybody on that one. I will have a question for y'all tomorrow.
Okay. Maybe we'll have 2 questions for you guys tomorrow. Maybe
That's a lot.
I know, but I'll try and pitch in. Sorry, guys. It really was a little bit messy with all the episodes we had this week and the out of scheduling and everything. Speaking of, make sure you catch our last 2 episodes, because after that Columbus game, I think we did a really good job of breaking down why we shouldn't be in despair and we should be a little bit optimistic about this team. And then we had on our Wednesday episode, we had Scott Matla come back and talk to us about the Laval Rocket and the call-up options for the Montreal Canadiens. So if you missed those episodes, understandably, after the Columbus game, you might not have been in the mood. But I promise you, it was positive, like lots of positive stuff in the last couple of episodes. So go check them out. And you can find us all over wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. You can find those episodes right there. You can also find Locked On Canadians, like I said, Locked On Canadians at Gmail. We're also on Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky at Locked On Canadians. That's where we are posting. Once you're done listening to this episode, make sure you check out Locked On NHL, where they have game night, which is super fun. Every day they wrap up all the games that took place in the NHL, and they have us featured sometimes as well, like the hosts of all of the shows, like reacting live to or just, immediately after those games. Ooh, we have a possibility for a live from the Bell Center on a short from the Bell Center on Saturday, which is super, super exciting. You can find me all over social media at The Active Stick, and you'll find my co-host at Maybe It's Ian. I almost said at The Active Stick to you too.
You can find us both there. I hack Laura's account from time to time and just really go wild in there.
Because sometimes I think I say you first, so that's where I got that. Either way, find us, follow us, tell your friends about us. We're really, really excited about the content that we're bringing you guys this season, so please check us out. And we will see you with a Washington Capitals recap and the mailbag tomorrow.